Alright, so welcome back. This is lesson 9 of this bite-sized guitar series for beginners. And today we're actually just going to go over something, give you a little break. You have a lot to practice between the finger coordination exercise, the 1, 2, 3, 4, finger stretches, and the chords that we learned, E and E minor, E major and E minor. When someone refers to a major chord, a lot of times they'll just say E, right? So instead of saying E major, they'll just say E chord. It's an E chord, okay? Just so you're aware, right? Sometimes we don't say major, okay? But minor you usually do designate because it's different. It's very different. But major is the normal, right? So it's usually say E or E major, okay? So what I want to go over with you today are the notes on the 5th string. Remember we talked about the notes on the 1st string and the 6th string. They're the same. So it's important to know the notes on the 6th string, 5th string, even 4th string, because you can figure out the rest of the notes even if you don't memorize them. Although I do recommend memorizing them if you can, if you're interested in that part of the guitar playing. And I'll put a link in the description below to a video that I made called How to Memorize the Notes on the Guitar. And it goes over this added into it in a more clear way where I made like a diagram and outline so you can see very clearly on the guitar how the notes relate to each other. That's in the description. That's a longer video. We'll touch on all that gradually throughout this course, but if you're interested right away, go ahead and you can check that out, okay? So, notes on the 5th string. Remember we went over the notes are A, B, C, D, E, F, G are the whole notes on the guitar, the notes that aren't sharps or flats, okay? Let's say it that way. We didn't get to the sharps or flats yet, right? But the way we're going to do it is just walk up from A. So I'll just show you what the notes are, and then I'll show you how they relate. So the notes on the 5th string all relate to the notes on the 3rd string, and we'll get to that in one moment. So the open is A, open 5th string. The first finger on the 2nd fret is B. There's no note between B and C, no sharp or flat. So you only go 1 fret, see, to C. Between C and D, there's a sharp and a flat, a sharp or a flat, D flat or C sharp. So you skip a fret. So 2 frets up from C, the 5th fret on the 5th string is D. The 7th fret, 2 more frets up, is E. Between E and F, there are no sharps or flats, so we only go 1 fret to the 8th fret, which is F. Then skip 2 more frets. We're going to be on the 10th fret now. This is a G. 2 more frets up, you get to the 12th fret, which is the same as the open string, which is A. So same note. So those are the notes on the 5th string. You can just count up, right, using the sequence of notes. If you're not familiar with that, I think we went over it in the first video. But just to remind you, there are no sharps or flats between B and C and E and F. Everything else has a sharp or flat between it. There's only 1 note between them. So in other words, between E and F, there is just 1 fret. So 1 fret, and you go to the next fret. There's a half step, we call it. 1 fret to the next fret. E, F. B and C, same thing. B, C. They're 1 fret apart, right next to each other. Everything else is 2 frets apart, right? A to B, you skip a fret in between, okay? And that's the same for between every other note except E and F and B and C. Now, how do these notes on the 5th string relate to the 3rd string? If I go like this, see? That's the same note. So what am I doing there? Let's just start on the 2nd fret, which is the B. Now, if you don't know where a B is on the 3rd string, right, then you could use this method. You just go from where your first finger is on the 5th string, anywhere it is on the fret, come down 1 string, so skip a string down. That means you skip the 4th string and you put your finger on the 3rd string, and then move over 1 fret, up 1 fret, towards the body of the guitar. So So down one string, skip a string, over one fret, like that. And they're the same note. See, you don't hear any difference. If it was a different note, you'd hear like this. It doesn't sound right, but these are the same. See? And you can do this everywhere, from the first fret right, all the way up. And that's how you could find the note on the third string without having to know the third string. So that's the relationship between the fifth and the third. This is a technique, by the way, it's called an octave. You're playing the same note, but in a different octave. So this one's deep, this one's high. Right? Jimi Hendrix used to use this a lot. It's a really nice sound. Right? It's a really cool sounding thing to use. So if you want to play around with that, feel free. You always come up with your best stuff, you know, when you don't get too much into the theory. You come up with your best, most creative stuff. I did anyway. So the only thing that you need to know is that the open A goes to the second fret of the third string. That's because it's skipping a fret. See, if my finger was here and I skip one fret, I come to the second fret, right? Because it's open. So open, A, and then the second fret. So it's still skipping a fret. It's the same thing, but just doesn't look that way because you're using an open string. So that's it for today. If you need clarity on that, like you want to see the actual fretboard, again, check out the video down below that teaches you all the notes on the guitar. That will put it very clearly with diagrams and diagonal lines to show you what the connection is. All right? So that's our theory lesson for today, and I'll see you tomorrow for lesson 10.